a lot of a missed opportunity here, I think, is taking a lot of these examples that worked in the 80s in print and television, and finding a way to bring it into the digital.
It certainly is a big bun.
It's a very big bun.
Big fluffy bun.
It's a very big fluffy bun.
Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
Where's the beef?
At Wendy's, we serve a hamburger we modestly call a single. And Wendy's single has more beef than the Whopper or Big Mac. At Wendy's, you get more beef and less bun.
Hey, where's the beef? I don't think there's anybody back there.
You want something better. You're Wendy's kind of people.
All right, Justin, Wendy's. Give it to me.
I might be biased because that ad was out when I was a kid, and I remember seeing it on TV. But that is one of the best ads commercials ever made in the history of advertising. I mean, it's up there with the 1984 ad. Came out the same. Actually, I would say that if what is the best ad of 1984 is not the Apple ad, I would say it's this. It's this ad. I mean, it's certainly an American catchphrase. I think it's an international catchphrase. It was brought up in a political debate that year. Where's the beef means something now. People go around saying it just like they say, always a bridesmaid's never a bride. And they're always surprised to hear that was actually an ad for Listerine in the 1920s. I mean, that ad is just perfect in every way. It didn't start out that way. The history of it is interesting. I also wonder I should just make a note, because the creative director and the copywriter for that ad died last week, Cliff Friedman. He was, I didn't know if you picked it on purpose, but Cliff Friedman, if you've seen him in Art and Copy, he has one of the classic lines in that movie, in that documentary, where he says that, he started his career as an encyclopedia salesman. And so he's like, how do you get somebody to you got 5 seconds when they open that door to say something that'll grab their attention. And what he says at the end of it is very good. He's like, it's to the point where somebody is like, hey, yeah, this is American. This is America, like capitalism. Yeah, you're a good salesman. I enjoyed that. So what's interesting is he doesn't try to divorce advertising from the ad. Like, his goal is to make an ad that is an ad, but it's so good that you don't mind that it's an ad. That's exactly what this ad is. It's an ad, they're selling something, but you could watch it over and over and over and over again, and you don't mind. And, a lot of people don't know that ad actually ran 2 versions of it, one of them with old men and one of them with old ladies. And the old lady one obviously won. And that Wendy's almost canceled the ad. They almost said, we're not going to put it on the air, like a week before. They had to make some final adjustments, but everything down from the casting to, the director to the ad is Joe Seldemeyer, who's he's just a famous, he did the Fast Talking guy, FedEx guy. He's very famous commercial director, and it's one of his early ones. So, what works about this ad is the catchphrase, where's the beef? Where's the beef? It becomes very memorable. Originally, the script didn't say where's the beef. It was where is all the beef, but the actress had emphysema, so couldn't say the line clearly. So that's how it became where's the beef, interestingly enough, which is an important lesson that, don't get so glued to your script maybe. But, throughout history, you have, I can't believe I ate the whole thing. Try it, you'll like it. Where's the beef? These catchphrases, people like to say that, that's the hokey pokey of whatever advertising, but hey, people remember them, so they don't make ads like this anymore. I don't know why. They should.
Look,
Maybe I should.
This is I look at this, and especially looking at like the direct response copy or brand response formula that sits behind it. Like, it's really clear, it's really evident. Like, there's a structure to these ads, whereas a lot of new ads, it's more on like an artistic direction, or like there's quite a distinct contrast. So this, like looking to break it down, it's a simple idea, which is a problem where you see a massive burger, but then there's not a lot of beef that's within the burger. So they're really owning this problem. So this, from a marketing perspective, what's our product, how we actually different. So you're talking about a unique selling proposition. That was it for Wendy's, and they really wanted to own it. So the formula, got to get attention in the first 2 to 5 seconds. It's where 80 cents in the dollar is spent. Then you've got a promise or a problem, and then you've got proof. So they got attention straight off. Where's the beef? That's the idea, but they went through and they had these old ladies. And I think the casting of this was absolutely brilliant. I echo that. It was just genius. And especially the lady that says, where's the beef? She is easily the best there on the far right. She was amazing. And they get and hold your attention. And interestingly, when they
she's famous. She became famous from that.
On the back end of it. So get attention, big bun, big fluffy bun. Then they go through, where's the beef? The promise they then move into is give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun. Proof, more beef than a Whopper or Big Mac. So there's a quite a famous insurance company in the US that they call it an RTB, a reason to believe. In all their ads, they use an RTB. So it's not just a promise without any proof or an RTB. You've got to back it up, because everyone's very skeptical on promises, because people can promise everything, but few can back it up with evidence or proof or an RTB, which is what they did here. More beef than a Whopper or a Big Mac. Seamless. Where's the beef? She said it 3 times. It embeds repetition, one ad 3 times. Wendy's the brand. They said it 4 times, integrated
4 times
into the script. You wouldn't even know it, but it's these subtle differences.
This is how
that's why this is so good. You could watch it time and time again. They do not shy away from the brand. The brand and the product is the hero. They've created a problem, they've got a solution, and they're embedding their brand.
And I wonder, actually, believe it or not, how much of this was even intentional, what you're saying, because I think that there's just some people who are so talented that they just instinctively do this. I mean, if I were to tell a copywriter, you got to mention the brand 4 times in the ad or whatever, I'd end up with an ad that, looks just like you're trying to force feed the name of the brand or the catchphrase, over and over again. I mean, it takes a real skill, like a real director, real talented creative director, to do this eloquently. I mean, you even now that you just said this, I'm thinking back to, try it, you'll like it. And the waiter said, eat this, you're going to try it, you'll like it. He says it like 4 or 5 times. I don't know how many times they say Alka-Seltzer in that ad. I think it's twice or whatever. But also, I can't believe I ate the whole thing. You ate it, Ralph. I can't believe I ate that. Repetition. Again, it's sort of the same thing, but none of it, all of these things became cliches, but they weren't cliches when they started. And I think that's a very important point for people that poo-poo on these sort of things, that you bring up. I'm just blown away by what you just said, because I might be just too close to the ad, having grown up with it. And so I'm like, okay, the historical context is interesting, but I totally missed all that. I mean, I get so absorbed into watching it that it's every time that it's amazing what you just said. It's so true though. But I worry about people listening to what you just said and then trying to apply it into a formula.
So this is what we're looking at, especially with super weapons of influence. What we're looking at, like what we've done, we've looked at over 2,500 ads, and there's formulas that sit behind the best creators of all time. There's a formula, and they correlate. But that's the science. The art is making it feel and look like there is no formula. Because this is where if you actually had a formula and people try and follow it very prescriptively, it comes across as forced, clunky, and nearly awkward, or you're trying to sell me something. Whereas this is the art of going, I know there's a formula that sits behind it, but it's executed so elegantly that you'd never know.
That's really, really super interesting, actually, and it's given me an idea for something that I'm working on now, where I have something that has a catchphrase on it, but it's like a I don't think I mentioned it enough. I think I think originally we did, and then the client made it like, oh, let's just make it a punchline. But I think it does anyway. Yes.
No, it is. But this is the interesting thing about, like, if it becomes part of a vernacular, like, where's the beef? You go into any restaurant and it's got a small bit of, and that's why this has legacy. And the reason I also love it, you can have an extension of this and you can play it out and you can make different versions of it. It's not just a one ad in solace. It's got, further narrative that can expand from it. But you go into a restaurant and someone's seen this ad and you get a small bit of beef in your burger. Where's the beef? That's the line that comes out. Wendy's is anchored to it. Should have gone to Wendy's. That's how you win.
That's how you win. Now, here is an interesting question for you. That ad played in 1984 when I could count the amount of television networks in the United States on one hand. Forget about two. So you only had two places to go with your messaging, television and print, pretty much, right? Do you think that Wendy's could have pulled this ad off today and made "Where's the Beef" as salient? I'm trying to think. In the past 5 years, has there been any advertiser that's created a catchphrase
In the last 5 years?
For the past 10 years? I mean, can you?
No, I'd go. It's a very good question. Let's look back on it because I'm going to create a list and have a look now. Because I'd actually suggest majority of creative agencies now, they do not even look at that. It's far more about how do we actually get attention. Like that is a big focus of a lot of their work. Because it is cluttered. It's a different landscape. And this is why I go back to grilled. Like the Subway is really interesting, just to loop back on Subway. The Subway in Australia feels like a lot of the ads we have on air right now. It's kind of the theme, the style. It's kind of a weird guy starting off and they'll do a different shot. It feels nearly like an alcoholic beverage creative that a lot of brands are doing at the moment. But let me come back to you because I think it's a great question. Who has actually created, a catchphrase or a saying in the last 10 years? Have a look in the US as well. Like I'm actually.
No, I will. I'm sure there has been, but the fact that I can't think about it offhand, where, and I think it's also a childhood thing a little bit, I think that I can remember, from the carryovers from my parents' childhood. Well, actually, I think they were still playing the Alka-Seltzer. I can't believe I ate the whole thing up until the 80s. I think they ran with that for a while, but
the 80s and 90s was all about this. Like you've got Milk and you got all these style of creatives that really looked at how do we own, but within the catchphrase, you look at all of them. The one thing they've got and the overarching principles is it's got to be simple because our minds, especially a reptilian mammalian, we're adverse to complexity. Complexity is the death of sales. Complexity is the death of memory. So it's a really simple line. So it's interesting. Like I actually love your insight that where's the beef was where's all the beef. And then it was short. The same story with Got Milk was written on the whiteboard as like the main idea, like the main positioning statement. And then, I think Jeff Goodby was like, I like that. Let's just stick with that. Good call.
But the thing is like, it's a shame because I think that the internet can drive, talking about repetition. You have a good catchphrase. You could multiply that all day long, right? You could have that following people around more than an empty cart notice, more than a, hey, did you forget to buy this product? I mean, you could really, embed some things into people's head. Now, maybe there's a point in the brain where you go too far with it, but a lot of a missed opportunity here, I think, is taking a lot of these examples that worked in the 80s in print and television and finding a way to bring it into the digital. For some reason, when we moved it into the digital, it just loses its salience. And people start thinking, I got to think more rationally. I got to think more. Something happens. It didn't start out that way, right? You had subservient chicken. You had all these really cool internet when the internet first started. But that's just because it was a new medium. But I think that what we as an industry need to start doing is really playing around with the internet a little bit more, pushing its boundaries. Believe it or not, it has boundaries. Playing around with the Facebook algorithm. If they're going to play with us, let's play with them and do some unique things. And and just begin to rely a little bit more on the humanity of all of this. Because if you create like a really interesting thing that bends the rules, it'll get passed around. I mean, the only way that Facebook could stop it is by stopping it, and which I don't think they'd have a reason to. So
it'd be interesting because as we look at historic creative and going back to Coca-Cola and Topo Chico, like historically it was very overt, the brand and the visual identity anchored to the creative. Whereas the last decade, we've really moved away from that to be very subtle. Like it's like we don't want to try and sell anything. We just want an engaging piece of visual content.
Mission marketing. Right?
Yeah, like we're really moved away because it's like we feel guilty, or consumers are too smart and they'll see through our advertising. Whereas I'm of the opposite view. I'm like, people actually want great ads. Like that's what they
do.
want.
Psychologically, I want to be wooed. It's about me. It's not about you. It's not about you pretending to be something. I want to be sold. I want your attention. Sell me something. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And we've all got problems that need to be solved. We've all got emotions that we want to feel more of or less of. So how do we play on that?
TV is coming back. I know that they don't call streaming, they call it OTT. They don't call them television commercials. And some of them certainly don't look like television commercials, but I've seen some good television commercials snuck into like these, watching the news on the CNN app or whatever, and they have their commercials. I'm sorry, you can call them whatever you want to call them, but they're more or less commercials. And every once in a while, I see like a nice high budget one that's one that really grabs your attention, in the old style way. And so as more of the streaming comes in, I think you're going to see a lot more of the television. I think there's going to be a lot more call to action built into it, just because they can track it much better than they can with start ratings and all the stuff that the way I used to do with TV. But I definitely see it coming back.
See, I think there's still only 4 forms of advertising. The internet's just made it far more complex. So you've got, let's call it audio, which was radio, but now it's podcast and it's streaming but it's audio advertising. It's using, music and sound to get a message across. You've got video. Video was TV. Now it's BVOD, it's streaming, it's everything else in between. It's catch up. It's video advertising. It's the same. It's just video. There's different contexts, but it's video advertising. And then you've got, call it print, but print is just a visual ad. There's no auditory, it's just visual. And then the other one, it's a slight variation of that, is banner, which is outdoor. There's banner ads online. It's kind of like a mini version of outdoor, although I'd argue far less effective. And then you've got, other forms. It's not necessarily print. It's more long form, and it's websites and it's landing page, but it's all visual. Well,
the billboard one is it's as effective as billboards are. I mean, the point of a billboard is awareness, right? I mean, so if you spent a lot of money and you people weren't tracking their banner ads, you could definitely spend a lot of money and create a lot of brand awareness I've even heard people start referring to them as billboards, which I think is actually digital billboards, which I think is actually,
they are. The challenge I have with billboards is the way we're evolving to filter out as we navigate through screens and device to actually not visually see them, whereas still on roads and billboards and other bits and pieces, they've got more punch. So we're actively seeking out where we've kind of evolved from
not just punch but shared experience.
Correct.
And that's also a big problem, is the targeting, because you could come up with this where's the beef ad, but the problem is that half the population will never see it, because unless they pay a lot of money to do general targeting on Facebook, which costs a lot of money and is usually advised against, right? So that there is something, right? What is it about where's the beef too? One of the magical formulas about it was that you didn't have a choice. If you were watching television, you had to see it, unless you change the channel. Whereas a lot of the ads that are advertising, that is, when you're only advertised to your target, you lose that. You do.
And there's a lot of studies that reinforce that mass is still you need mass and you need segmentation and targeting. You need both. You need mass, broad reach and appeal, and then you need really hyper targeted segmentation to give them with really tactical executions of it. If you focus on one over the other, you lose. You got to play both.